All right, hello you guys. So this is the last section of chapter 4, and hopefully this should be a nice welcome break from the last one that was pretty hard. So most of this should be review. You should remember much of this stuff. So I already have a few things written down, so feel free to pause it to just copy them down in your notebook. So the first thing we're talking about is the difference between a relation and a function. So the relation can be anything, just any set of ordered pairs. It could be anything on a graph. It's just a relation. A function is a special relation where x's do not repeat and it passes the vertical line test. So it has to be like a line or a parabola or something like that. So if you want to pause it there and copy that down. The next thing that we were talking about is domain and range. And again, this should already be something you guys are really well familiar with. So the domain is just a set of all the x values in a relation. The range is a set of all y values in a relation. So let's start with just an example. And again, feel free to pause that if you want to just write those down in your notebook. So our first example is going to be state the domain and range. And whether it's a function. I'm just going to abbreviate it, func. Okay. All right. So for part A, I'm just going to give you a set of ordered pairs. So I have 3, 1, -4, 2, 3, -7, and then 6, 4. So I have to state my domain and range and whether or not this is a function. So my domain is going to be all the set of all of my x values. So I'm going to put them in those squiggly parentheses again. So this is my domain. I have 3, -4, 3, and 6. The only thing I want to warn you guys about is whenever something repeats, like this 3 is repeating, you don't need it twice in your set because it's already in there once. That means it's part of your domain. So I can just write down 3, -4, and 6. If you want to write them from least to most, you can do that too. But let's just write ourselves a note. So make sure, because I do take off like a half a point on a quiz if you do this, do not repeat numbers in your sets. Do not repeat numbers in sets. Okay, and then going on to our range, now we just want a set of all of the y values. So we have 1, 2, -7, and 4. Nothing repeats, so I just put all of those guys in there. And then we have to ask ourselves, is this a function or is it not? So if we go back up here and review our what is a function, a special relations where the x's do not repeat and it passes the vertical line test. Over here, my x is repeated over here. So if I have a repeated 3, then nope, this is not a function. Okay, just one more easy example. I'm going to give you a table this time, but it's still pretty much the same exact thing. So I have xy. My x's are going to be 4, 11, 2/3, 0, and 2. My y's are going to be -2, 6, 4, -3/4, and 4. And then what is my domain? Obviously, for a table, it's just really super easy. All of this is my domain. It's all of my x values, and nothing is repeating. So I can just write them in there. So I have 4, 11, 2/3, 0, and 2. My range, again, super easy. I have -2, 6, 4, -3/4, and 4. Remember, this 4 does not need to be repeated again. So once I have it in there already, it's good. So I just have -2, 6, 4, and 3/4. And then I just have to ask myself, is this a function? I just have to look at my x values. Did any of them repeat? No, they did not. So that means yes, this one is a function. Okay, let's keep this going. So we're going to turn the page. Okay, the next ones that we're going to talk about are called maps. And I'm sure you guys have seen these already before, but it might not be a bad idea to review. It's a little bit more challenging than those just a list of ordered pairs and a table. So when you have a map, it's just like kind of like a table. So you have your X and your Y values. They all have little bubbles. So in my X values, I have -3, 2, 4, 5, and 11. And my Y's, I just have 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, but why are they called maps? They are called maps because they tell you which direction to go. So instead of ordered pairs, they are just saying the 3 is going to go with the 8, and then the 2 is going to go to the 9. The 4 is also going to go to the 9, the 5 to the 10, and the 11 to the 11. So this is just kind of telling you what's going on. If you really wanted to list them as ordered pairs again, you can. So I have 3, 8, 2, 9, 4, 9, 5, 10, and 11, 11. So if you really wanted to do that, that's a possibility too. And then again, it's still the same directions as last time. I'm just stating my domain and range and stating whether or not it's a function. So my domain is just pretty much everything in my X bubble again. My range is everything in my Y bubble. And again, in these, the nice thing about your maps is look at here, the 9 is repeating, but it's only in here once. So you don't even have to look for repeating numbers because they're not in there. So you just have to know that the 9 is repeating. So look how 2 numbers are going to the 9. But when we're asking, like, is this a function or is this not, we're looking at the X value. Is there any 2 lines that are coming from one of these X values? And for this one, they're not. So every X value just has 1 line going for it. That's what we want to see. So yes, it is a function. Okay, let's look at one more map. And again, feel free to pause. I feel like I'm trying to just go a little bit quicker, just to make the videos a tiny bit shorter, but feel free to pause whenever you need to. So this is my X bubble, this is my Y bubble, and then I need to know the directions. So this 8 is going to go to the -7. The -9 is going to go to the 4, and it's going to go to the 5, and then the 3 is just going to go to the 8. All right, so again, domain and range stating these are super easy. My domain is all of my X values that are in my X bubble. So 8, -9, and 3. My range is whatever's in my Y bubble. So 4, 5, -7, and 8. But the tricky part of these is trying to figure out whether or not it's a function. So you got to really make sure you're paying attention to the lines. Do any of these X values repeat? Is there 2 lines that are going from one X value? And in this case, there is. That -9 is going to the 4 and it's going to the 5. So that's not a function. Because again, if you had like an equation like y equals 2x plus 3, if I plug in -9, y equals 2x plus 3, I would get -18 plus 3, which is -15. I can't plug in -9 again and get -12. It just doesn't work like that. So this one is not a function. Can't plug in the same number and get 2 different answers to functions. And then I'm just going to write down here, -9 repeats. Okay. All right, let's look at some graphs and now talk about the vertical line test. So let's just say E. I have a graph over here, and my graph is just going to be a line. Now, what is the vertical line test? What does it mean? So let's just write a little blurb about that over here. Vertical line test. All right, vertical line test. You are going to draw a vertical line anywhere through this graph. So you're just drawing vertical lines anywhere through this graph. If it is a function, it can only hit the graph at one point. So look over here. This one is going to be a function because every time I draw a vertical line, it's only going to hit it at one point for each vertical line. So let's write that down. Can only hit graph once if it's a function. Okay. It is not a function. And I keep on abbreviating func. It's not a function if it touches 2 or more times. Okay, so that is your vertical line test. So when we are asking this one over here, yes, this is a function. But we still want to answer the domain and range question for this one too. Now you have to think a little bit harder for these ones. What x value is this line, if it's going on forever and ever and ever, going to hit? So again, for your domain, you're looking at your x values. It's going left and right on for forever. So your domain is still going to be, we're just going to write it in interval notation, negative infinity to infinity. It's eventually going to hit all of your x values because it's going left to right. For your range, how many y values is it going to hit if it goes on forever? So even though it's still going left and right forever, it's still going up and down forever. So my range is still going to be negative infinity to infinity. It's going to eventually hit every single x and every single y. Okay, we're almost done with this video. Couple more. All right, so example F. Okay, so now our function is going to look something like this. I'm trying to do the best that I can, but you really have to try to pay attention to where it's hitting on the x and y axis. First of all, is this going to be a function? So I just have to draw one vertical line and automatically I see that this vertical line is hitting it at 2 different points. So automatically this one is not a function. Okay, but now I need to figure out what my domain and range is. And I know my picture is not perfect, but you can still be able to tell just a little bit. So for your domain and range, I want to see how many x values it's actually going to hit. So what I really want to pay attention to is what is the lowest x value that my graph is going to hit? That's right here. And what's the highest x value my graph is going to hit? And I'm going to pretend like my picture is perfect and it's hitting exactly at those 2 points. So my lowest x value that it's hitting is -1, and it's hitting exactly on -1. So I do want that bracket. So remember your interval notation stuff. And then what's the highest x value my graph is hitting? I just have to count 1, 2, 3, 4. So the highest number that my graph is hitting over here is 4. And it's hitting all the ones in between. I can plug in 0. It's hitting right there at 0. I can plug in 0.5. It's hitting right there. I can plug in 1. I can plug in pi if I really wanted to. Pi is going to be somewhere over here. Okay, so it's hitting all of those in between -1 and 4. Then I want to do the exact same thing for my range. What is the lowest y value it's hitting, and what is the highest y value it's hitting? So my y values for my range are stuck between there and there. So now I just have to count. So -1, 2, 3. The lowest my range is ever going to go is -3. Notice how it's not -4 or -5. There's nothing in the graph that's down here. What's the highest my range is going to go? 1, 2, 3. So it's going from -3 to +3. And again, all of the y values are in between there. I can plug in 0 for my y, I get something over here. I can plug in 0.5, then I get something over here for my y values. I can plug in 1. So all those y values between -3 and 3. All right, last graph. We're almost done with just this video. Okay, so this graph is going to look like this. Okay, So the first thing I'm going to ask myself is this graph a function? So that passes, that passes, that passes, that passes, that passes. And even though like it kind of looks like it's getting almost more vertical over here, whenever it's going on forever, it's always going slightly out here. So even if I drew it over here, it's still only hitting at one point. So this one is a function. Okay, but now I have to decide what my domain and range is going to be. So my domain, how many x values is this guy hitting? So it stops right here. So this has to be my lowest x value. And remember, I want to go up to my x-axis. What is the lowest x value it's hitting? So I got to count over here. So it's hitting at -1 and then at -2 over here. But notice how this is an open circle. That means -2 is not technically on my graph, so I want to use a parenthesis. And then what's the highest x value that it's going? Well, this arrow, like I said, is going up and to the right, on and on and on for forever. So it's going to hit all of my positive x values that way. And similarly, for my range, what are the y values that it's going to hit? What is the lowest y value that I have down here? So now I have to see where it lines up with the y-axis. So I just got to count down. So -1, 2, 3. And again, it's an open circle, so I still want that parenthesis. So the lowest y value that it's hitting is -3. And notice how this point is at -2, -3. So this is your lowest x value that's in your domain. The lowest y value is in your range. And then again, it's going straight on up. So the highest x value that it's going to hit is infinity. All right. There still will be another video after this, so keep on looking for that.